This is to everyone who considers themselves to be an avoidant attachment style. As we may know, being an avoidant attachment style, you rely on yourself. You don't really care to be close to people because you don't want to get hurt. It's a protection mechanism. So, this usually stems from early childhood, being in situations where you had to fend for yourself, being in situations where, in times of discomfort, you only had yourself to rely on. And though this attachment style keeps you safe, it could also hinder you in life. And the reason this can hinder you in life is because you walk around, self-sufficient all the time. Us as human beings, we're social creatures. We thrive off interaction. We thrive off community. We thrive off working together. But being avoidant attachment, we kind of isolate. We typically just stay away from everyone, and we always have a very low expectation when it comes to other people. We walk around and we say things like, if I don't get my hopes up, then I can't get hurt. Or you'll say, I can't, not succeed in this situation if the expectation is super low. So we have to find a way to take that wall of not wanting to get hurt and just become people who can understand that being hurt is a part of life. Again, it's tough, and I understand, because this isn't something that just comes out of nowhere, right? We've been raised to rely on ourselves. We've been raised to be self-sufficient, but we can't take those wounds with us forever. We gotta put a Band-Aid on it, heal the wound, because at the end of the day, life is too short to walk around on eggshells. We should strive to live a life where we focus on what we can control. And by focusing on what we can control, we can learn not to be so avoidant. We can learn not to say, you know what, I'm just not going to date somebody, or I'm just not going to go try to pursue my dreams because of that fear of being let down. We have to be able to find a way to put ourselves out there, and regardless if we're let down or not, we keep our heart posture and our mental the same. I really preach to everyone. If you can't control it, let it go. Try your best, put your best foot forward, best pickup line or whatever, and let it be that. The results are out of your control. And if we can learn how to do that, we can learn how to have more fulfilling lives. Again, gotta let them walls down. And I'm not coming on this video to, be that person to be like, if you don't do this, then you're never gonna be happy. I'm coming to you guys as a friend. I'm coming to you guys as someone who understands what it's like to rely on themselves a lot, to feel like they only have themselves to rely on. I want all of us to eventually be better, to find at least one or two people we could trust in life. And heck, you guys don't know me, but if I can be that person for you, I'd love to. So I got a quick little story time for you about my personal life. So let's get into it. So, quick little story time about myself is, growing up, I grew up with a single mother. And a single mother who had to figure it out. So, and a lot of my pivotal years, you know, she was making it happen, right? She was at school or she was at work. And I'm completely grateful for everything, my mom has done for me. Very, very grateful, very strong woman. And, not having a father around, I had to really rely on myself. I had to grow up and kind of just wonder why, things weren't normal. Maybe I would say around, it's kind of foggy, but I think around like 9, 10 years old is when, my parents got divorced and I stopped seeing them. But ultimately, I was left with my mom, and then at the time, I only had two brothers. I had two older brothers, 6 and 8 years older. So, with there being a little bit of an age gap, sometimes it was tough, because we were in different seasons of life. So, growing up, again, I just learned to fend for myself. I didn't really trust people too easily. I was always a firm believer of keeping your circle small, not letting anybody in, because I was always so worried of everyone leaving like my pops, whether it be friends, whether it be relationships. I would just walk around with this low expectation of everybody. I would walk around saying things like, nah, you're just going to leave anyway, or you're only going to be here for a period of time. And, sometimes that was true, which made me even more avoidant, because it was like, if I put my trust in you and you let me down like how I've been let down before, I'm not going to open up now. But, over time, I just realized I wasn't fulfilled. And like, I realized that living in a space where I didn't trust people, like it just wasn't, full of joy and contentment. Like I was safe, but I wasn't fulfilled inside. I was always craving something more. I went through high school like that. I was in a relationship, with someone that I trusted, and then we ended up breaking up after. And I ended up going to therapy for some time. And, going to therapy, I kind of just learned that, a big reason as to why a lot of my relationships were working, whether it be romantic or friendships, was because I wasn't allowing myself to be open, was because I wasn't allowing myself to actually be in the moment of the connection. I would spend so many times like really just hurting myself, because being avoidant, I wouldn't fully open up to everybody, or I wouldn't fully be involved in a situation in fear that they would leave. And then when I did, I was putting too much on people. So I would put so much on other people that I did open up to, that I would give them a whole burden of responsibility that they shouldn't have taken, which spilled over into the ending of those relationships. So in reality, I'm just here to tell you, man, like we gotta learn how to trust. We can't put all of our problems on other people. I have a good relationship with God, and that has helped me, understand that I will always have something that will never leave me, because, my relationship with Christ is something that is important to me, and I know that he's always here no matter what. So the people that are here, or the situations that are here that I'm attached to, I don't have to be fully attached to them, because I have something that will never leave. And again, man, like my pops leaving me, my relationships ending, it was just all a trickle-down effect of me having to fend for myself. But when I learned to not put so much on other people, or not to be avoidant and to always try to protect myself. That's when I found the most fulfilling relationships, whether it be with my family, whether it be with my friends, whether it be romantically. When you come more as a person who is healed, you come more as a person who's ready to be vulnerable, who isn't trying to put everything on the next person, you're just able to have better relationships, man. Like, it's so crazy to say, but when you finally allow yourself to say, you know what, if you hurt me, I'm gonna be okay, the world opens up to you in a different way. Relationships start flowing in. You start to find your tribe. You start to find people around you that love you for who you are, because you're not putting up these walls hiding what's inside. I tell people all the time, take off that mask, because when you wear that mask of not being vulnerable, of not wanting to trust, it's holding you back. But at the end of the day, you have to take it off when you're by yourself. You wear it for other people, but you got to take it off when you're by yourself. And only you know what that mask entails. So I came up with this monologue for you guys, inspired by being in Avoidant Attachment Style. Check it out. You think I don't care? That I don't feel anything? It's easier if you believe that. Because if you saw what was really going on inside, you'd run too. I learned a long time ago that love isn't safe. Every time I needed someone, they left. So I stopped needing. I don't need to rely on anyone else to be here for me. But man, I'm tired. Tired of being so damn lonely. I need someone, because how I've been going hasn't been working. I don't think I can open up to someone just yet. But if you're willing to stay, I'm willing to try. So let's talk about it. Let's break down some ways on how we can go from being avoidant to being more secure. I think one way is definitely baby steps, man. Like, just small steps of vulnerability. Maybe finding that best friend, or finding that community, or, man, even opening up to God or an imaginary friend. Just tell them how you're feeling. So maybe if you're feeling a little upset, just call your friend and be like, man, today I didn't have that great of a day and I was a little upset today. Just start putting yourself out there more, to just be more open to vulnerability. And I know it's not going to be an overnight fix for anyone, but if you just work on it consistently, it will slowly, get you back into rhythm. You know, focusing on things you can't control is the next one. You know, I preach this a lot. You know, just in your daily life, think about the situation that's bothering you, or think about the situation that you're in, and just ask yourself if you can control it. And then if you can't control it, try your best and then just let it fly. You know, so many people are stuck in this cycle of really is hurt. You know, really is just a way for us to protect ourselves of feeling pain. You know, I tell everybody all the time, like, I've had surgeries, I've had physical injuries. I've broken my wrist, sprained my wrist, you know, ACLs, Achilles, but none of that compares to the pain of heartbreak, of longing, of isolation. So I understand why so many people are walking around, you know, coping or wanting to protect themselves, because it hurts. That first heartbreak you ever experience is a pain like nothing else ever felt before. So really the reason for this video is just to remind everyone that the pain isn't your story. You can be an avoidant attachment, you can be an anxious attachment, you can be whatever kind of attachment, but you don't have to stay there. You can better your situation, you can work on yourself, you can get, you know, help from professionals, whether it be a therapist, a psychiatrist, or whatever, you know, maybe a trusted family member, and you can get there. Because at the end of the day, you know, there needs to be more love in this life. There needs to be more experiences of people waking up and having a good tribe around them, having a good group and community around them, having good relationships. But the only way to do that is we have to get out of the cycles that we're in. But in this life, the way it works is it has to feel worse before it gets better. We have to go through the growing pains to get to the other side and to be stronger. When we try to improve our life, a lot of times we want the quick fix. You know, we want that fix that is just going to be smooth sailing. You know, it's just going to get us through to the other side, you know, no bumps, no bruises. But anything worth having in this life is hard. You know, think about learning how to ride a bike. You start with training wheels, and the training wheels, they really stop you from falling. But if you only ride around in training wheels, you'll never be able to really know how to ride a bike. You'll never gain the balance. You'll never gain the skills. So you'll start with the training wheels, and then you take them off. And then once you take them off, you're going to fall sometimes. You're going to fall, but you got to keep getting up, and you're going to fall, and you got to get up, and you're going to fall, and you got to get up. And then eventually, riding a bike becomes second nature to you. It's something that you'll always have no matter what. You can not ride a bike for 30 years, hop on a bike and be able to know how to ride it. But it's because you put yourself out there, you got off those training wheels, you fell, you hurt your knee, you were bleeding, you had those scars and everything, and then you were able to just keep pushing through the adversity, and you got better and better at it, and now it's a part of your life. It's the same thing with our vulnerability. It's the same thing going from anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, to secure attachment. Take off those training wheels. Allow yourself to fall. Allow yourself to, hurt. I know trusting another human being might be the hardest thing that we ever do. But if you find that right person, that right friend, that right, community, it is the most fulfilling thing ever. But you will only do it if you allow yourself to be hurt. So learn from me, learn from my story. I'm someone who had to learn how to be more vulnerable, to not have to rely on myself. And I'm forever grateful that I learned. So a big mission for me is to hopefully inspire other people to do the same. I really want to see people improve. But learning isn't linear. Getting buff doesn't happen overnight. It's daily reps over and over and over and over and over again that leads to huge growth. So, again, to all my avoidant attachments, to all those people who feel like they can only trust themselves, but who truly crave those relationships on the inside, you can get them. One day at a time, one small step at a time. Just keep chugging forward. Take off those training wheels. And if no one else is there for you, I'm here for you. Shout out to the Wonder Tribe. See you soon.